Hello and welcome to Bedhead Books. Today we're going to be talking about The Second Summer of Love by Alan Shulman. It's the story of how dance music took over the world. I feel as if this book is rather trying to hypnotise you with its front cover. Don't look at it for too long. What it details is the story of Britain in the 1980s, particularly acid house, but of course it splinters off into various other genres throughout. So The Second Summer of Love is generally identified as being 1988, although we do get some preamble leading up to then. House music had migrated over from Detroit and Chicago, and it was primarily an underground form of music, but the Brits adopted it and sort of exported it back to America, rather like the Brits did in the 60s with blues music, and it then became more mainstream and of course is now a massive integral part of our lives. So a principal event identified in here is 1987. Paul Oakenfold, Danny Rampling, Nicky Holloway and Johnny Walker, not the Johnny Walker you may know from BBC Radio 2, a different Johnny Walker, much younger. They went on holiday to Ibiza and they experienced the all-night rave culture, the dancing under the stars, the communal feeling, everybody coming together, loads of different nationalities, and they wanted to bring that back to the UK. And, a couple of them had not been DJing previously, and so they picked it up through that. Of course, a big reason why people were feeling the way they were feeling was MDMA. Now, there is a whole section of the book dedicated to MDMA and its development as a medicinal drug, and how it was first synthesized, and how it, of course, gave people happy, euphoric feelings, and therefore garnered the nickname ecstasy, or E. And, there's always been a relationship between drugs and music, and the drugs and the music have always intertwined with each other in particular ways. Like if you look in the 60s when amphetamines or speed were quite big, particularly amongst the mods, the energy of the music very often reflect that, and the frustration and the anger and sort of letting that out was very much part of the music itself. You look forward to the late 60s, LSD came along, the music became very, very psychedelic, very hallucinatory, and, recreated those feelings that one had after taking the drug. And I guess you could argue in the 70s and 80s as well, when everybody was on cocaine, you can listen to a lot of that music, both good and bad, and you can kind of pick up on the narcissism and the increased confidence. When it comes to MDMA, the feeling that most people talk about getting is a feeling of warmth and of happiness and wanting to embrace everybody around you as a brother or a friend or a sister. And that is a good thing, really, and it plays its part. It's not really the absolute dominant thing. It's the music itself that is more important, believe it or not. There's always been that sort of relationship. Me, myself, I've never really made that connection in my own experiences. So I've never taken drugs and gone to a club. I've never got stoned and listened to Pink Floyd. So the tempo of dance music is 120 BPM. The most common tempo that you will see in popular music. If you actually load up any digital audio workstation, it's preset at 120 BPM. Because 120 BPM equals 2 beats per second, it is the speed of your heartbeat during exercise. So once you get into that tempo, you can sort of keep going and keep dancing, and that probably explains why my fiance once told me that she was dancing for 3 hours to Fatboy Slim without having any knowledge of the time. The acceleration of this movement, this acid house movement, did lead to a lot of all-night illegal raves, and the police got involved, and in many cases they were so overwhelmed and couldn't really do very much about it. And eventually, following on from an event known as Castle Morton, they completely stamped down on it with something they called the Criminal Justice Bill and the Public Order Act. This forbade the usage of repetitive beats and mass gatherings to dance to repetitive beats, and eventually it was agreed that we should all work together and we should legitimize this, and that's how we got the big festival crowds and the big events that we have now You know, a lot of them are, if not all of them, are very, very electronic dance music friendly. And that's because of the events of this book. And it really is a great journey, to be honest. And Alan Shulman was quite a big part of it because he was a DJ, a funk DJ in London, and he went on to become a promoter. And it's because of this and it's because of his involvement that you get a sense for his voice, which was, of course, my criticism of The Invisible Man, the story of Rod Temperton by Jed Pittman, was that because it was interspersed with interviews, you couldn't really get a sense for his voice. This is interspersed with interviews too, but they're much shorter. They're little snippets that are sprinkled throughout the book. The majority of the book is Shulman. It's him putting across his perspective, and he does it very, very well. He has a great insight, a really good sense of humour, and that makes for an excellent read. So yeah, I am going to give The Second Summer of Love an 8 out of 10. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, don't judge this book by its cover. Peace. Easy good, easy good. He's having easy good, easy good, easy good. He's having easy good, easy good, easy good. He's having easy good, easy good, easy good. He's having easy good.